Hi guys, and welcome to my review of the 7Hz Sonus. I apologize for having been a little bit late with this review. I've had the Sonus with me already for a couple of weeks, but it's just been overwhelmed with the amount of IEMs I've been getting to review, so it kind of just fell behind. But at the same time, I don't actually regret it falling behind, because it also gave me an opportunity to listen to it with a little bit more time and be a little bit more relaxed, because I wasn't under that, let's say, rush of getting the review out as the IEM was launched. I have to say that I am glad I actually ended up only doing the review now, because it enabled me to come to a very solid conclusion about the Sonus, which is, besides the timeless, which it isn't even fair to compare one and the other. Taking away the timeless, the Sonus is without question the best IEM that 7Hz has made, in my opinion. It is an IEM where the justification for having a hybrid over a single DD has been met in the most simplistic of manners, because this is a 1+1. And ultimately the reason for being of a hybrid is that you get that extra resolution, you get that extra detail that a single driver cannot do easily. And the way that 7Hz has worked their magic and been able to do that with just two drivers is a testament that they chose carefully their drivers. They chose and they took their time in doing the tuning, and they made sure that the final product was one that really came together beautifully in all aspects. I mean, the tuning has been done flawlessly, in my opinion, and it showcases itself across the board. The integration of the two drivers, a custom-made BA and an 11.3mm diamond driver, has been done again flawlessly. I can only imagine the implementation of these drivers in a more complex IEM, what could be obtained, because the single DD is just, the dynamic driver is a very high quality dynamic driver. You notice from the first time that you listen to it that it is a very well built, very good quality dynamic driver. Although obviously, with a $59 price tag, you ask yourself, how is it possible? And it's simple. It's like I've said many times before, you can get very high quality equipment without necessarily thinking that the material used in there costs an arm and a leg. Once again, 7Hz has proved me right. They've shown that if you choose your materials properly, if you know how you tune, and you know what you're doing with regards to your tuning, what the end result brings us is an amazing IEM. For lack of a better adjective, that's basically what I can say. Anyway, let me just quickly take you through the box. Very much the usual 7Hz approach. You open it up, okay, and inside the IEM cable over there, you have this pouch, which, to be honest with you, it's not a bad pouch. It fits nicely at the IEM with its cable and so on, but it's not something that I think would satisfy me, at least. I like a hard case, period. This, yes, is quite pocketable, and it is a decent quality. I'm not sure if this is real leather. It doesn't look like real leather, looks like leatherette, but anyway, it is of a decent quality, just not my cup of tea. As being soft like this, I think the protection that it will offer will be a very minimal protection. Anyway, that's the case. IEMs came over there, like I was saying. Sorry about that, apologies. I'll just get all of this out of the way here. Alright, and then we have a nice, we've got a little bag here, that brings some replacement filters for the nozzle, as you can see. Okay, wait, that's a nice touch. That's a really nice touch. And then we got a nice ample supply of tips. They've got some tips which are very much like the KB ear tips. Let me just get them out here. Okay, which are those yellow ones that you see there, and so on. And then you got these other tips which kind of look like the Sony or the GVP tips as well. The tips are nice, they're good quality. I'm using the stock tips. There was really no need to change them over, so that's it. Let me just put them away here so they don't get lost. It's always nice to have good tips. No point in losing them. Anyway, those are the tips. Okay, IEM. Very nice construction. I mean, you know, once again, for $59, what they've been able to do here is really very commendable. It's got a beautiful faceplate. It's available in 4 colors. It's a metal faceplate. The actual body seems to be like a resin plastic shell. Okay, you can just about see the driver. Well, not just about, you can actually see the driver quite well. It's a big driver, 11.3 millimeters. Okay, and you can also just get a glimpse of the BA there. Okay, fits beautifully, no issues with the fit. And then the other point which is worth mentioning is the unusual cable that they are using. They're using a flat cable, as you can see. Okay, only available in 3.5 termination, which is a pity. I think they could have maybe, since the cable is such an unusual cable, they could have maybe made it available with a modular plug setup, but that's just a little remark. It's not really a negative aspect or anything. But it is nice to see a different approach to the cable, and it is of a decent quality as well. It's got the 7Hz logo over there. It's got I guess a decent enough cinch, and that's it. Fit, as I was saying, is perfect. I've got no issues with the fit. Isolates pretty nicely. They're not heavy, so they fit and they stay on the ears without causing any fatigue. And in terms of like the appearance, like I was saying, they look very much way above their price tag. I mean, you know, this could easily, you could easily call this something costing between $150 to $200, and it wouldn't offend anybody, in my opinion. It's got solid enough construction. All right. Anyway, that's the IEM in its physical aspects. And now let me just wind this up, and then start talking about what we want to know, which is what is the sound of the Sonus. What is it that 7Hz has brought us here that has made me praise it so well? Oh, sorry about that. Anyway, what do I have here? This won't be so much, and I've been doing this lately, or at least trying to do this lately, which is not so much to see which is the best, which is the worst IEM when I make comparisons, but to try and position that particular IEM, in this case the Sonus, with what is available, and then ultimately let you decide. You know, if you have some of these IEMs, by doing this, I think you can really get a perception of how the Sonus will be, and then decide if that is a step that you want to take, a purchase that you want to make. I've got a varied array in terms of IEMs, in terms of price, and in terms of configuration. I've got the C Audio Rinco, okay, the 1+1 there, costs around $90, dynamic driver plus a planar. I've got here the LITZ DZ4, 3 dynamic drivers. Next to that, I've got the LITZ Galileo 1+1, so the same configuration as the Sonus. On this end here, I've got the CVJ May 1+2, and it's here. Well, we'll get to that in a second. On the bottom here, I've got the SimGot EM6L 1+4. I've got here the Krilla from KZ 1+1, obviously the Sonus, and then over here the SimGot, another SimGot rather, the Roshan, which is also a 1+1. So in terms of price, like I was saying, we've got about you know, for the Rinco, we've got about $89 to $95. There's a white version now available. The DZ4 is about $70. The Galileo about $85, $90. The May about $55. The Roshan is about $100, $105. The Sonus $59. The Krilla, you can get it anywhere between $28 to $35. And the SimGot, the EM6 for $109. Okay. In terms of the sounding, what can I say, or how can I position, or what can I talk to you guys about the Sonus? It's got a sound which is very smooth, and that's very evident from the first time you listen to it straight away. It's not an IEM that jumps to you with, you know, either crazy bass or very prominent mids or upper mids, or none of that. It's a very smooth sounding IEM, with everything just sounds very coherent, very equal, and doesn't matter whether the volume is low or whether you're cranking it up. It always maintains itself very composed. So it's not one of those IEMs that at one volume it sounds, at low volume or connected just to your phone, it sounds one way, and then you connect it up to a high power source and it sounds completely different, and it changes, and no. Yes, obviously there will be changes, there will be improvement in the sound, but basically the way that it scales is always very equal. So be it at low volume, you always have a bass, a mid, and a high, which is very balanced, very evened out. And if you crank it up, that same balance maintains itself. And there are IEMs that you need to crank it up for things to balance it out. And when when it's lower down, things get out of balance. And no, with regards to that, the Sonus is perfect. So full marks there. The way that they've married the two drivers, the time they took to make sure that they combine perfectly and they scale properly has been done impeccably. So top marks there. Bass is more of a sub-bass focus with just sufficient mid-bass, and I say sufficient not in a negative way, no, because I mean I took it through my usual playlist, and there are plenty of songs where you will see that, or at least I saw, I had enough mid-bass to satisfy my needs. Yes, okay, fair enough. I will admit that there were some IEMs here that need or that requirement or that satisfaction from the mid-bass was met better. That is undeniable. But the truth is that this never let me down. This never dissatisfied me in any way. Okay. Then the marriage from the mid-bass into the mids is done flawlessly. However, I think in terms of vocals, at least, the ones that will shine the most or that will be done better with more ease are the female vocals. Why? Because that lack of a little extra energy in the mid bass can sometimes, on certain male vocals, lack that extra amount of fullness that male vocal will require. But I mean, this is really nitpicking. Again, nothing really jumped out in a bad way, or nothing really was so evident that you could say, oh wow, this is really bad. No. Okay, so just that minor detail there. Vocals, in terms of vocals, female vocals are the ones that come out perhaps ahead, and then the male vocals. Instruments are again done for the most part beautifully. I mean, wind instruments, which I'm a little bit particular on, come across beautifully. So La Belle Dame Sans Remorse from Chris Botti, for example, minute 120, 121 to 130 roughly, his sax sounds perfect. There's no aggressiveness, no shoutiness from there, so it's done nicely. And then the treble is complements this whole mids, upper mids, and bass perfectly. If I was to say what is the star of the show in the Sonus, definitely the mids. The mids are the star of the show, with the bass and the treble then complementing it in a very good manner, considering again it's a 1+1 and it costs what it costs. I mean, it's being able to play at a level that is much higher than what its price tag would make you believe to start with, and also what its configuration would make you believe. I mean, the simple fact that I've got here a SIMGOT, the 1+4, the EM6L, is saying something really about the Sonus. If the Sonus, I wouldn't put the SIMGOT here if the Sonus wasn't capable of somehow, giving it some fight. Ultimately, which comes out ahead, in my opinion, the SIMGOT is a better IEM. That's just my opinion. Even considering the price difference of $50, the SIMGOT is for me still a better IEM. But the fact that, and putting aside now prices, the fact that sonically this is capable of putting up a good fight with the SIMGOT is a testament of how good this 1+1 has been done. Because the reality is this: let's face it, we have loads of 1+1s, and the majority of them, I mean, there are a few more that I've got quite a few more that I could have added here, but the majority of the 1+1s out there are a little bit debatable in how good and how well tuned they are. Many of them are just a putting together of parts. It's a sum of parts, and just push it out the door and let's hope it sticks to the wall kind of approach. And this is, like I said, and I've said it already repeatedly, this has been very well thought out. It's well put together, it's well engineered, it sounds good. Proper R&D was done here. This isn't a quick 1, 2, 3 drop. No. So bass is good, mids is good, treble is good. There's really nothing that you can kind of say, oh, this is at fault. No, there isn't. It's really, there's really no real defect I can point to it, because the truth is, like I was saying, it sounds and it plays really well considering its simplistic approach to what has been done here. Okay, technically, in terms of the soundstage, how can I put this? It's a decent enough. It's got decent enough soundstage. I think the imaging is probably the better one. It's got decent enough soundstage. And why do I say the imaging is the better one? Because the way that the mids have been done and been, let's say, exposed and been so open by the fact that the bass is not overpowering, you know, it shows the mids in a way that if you then do not have a good ability of being resolving, if you do not have an ability of those mids helping you out in positioning and putting everything in its precise place and layering properly, then what's the point of not having much bass? Many times you actually add a little bit, or some manufacturers might add a little bit more bass to kind of camouflage the deficient way in which the mids have been done. And in this particular case, no, they were so confident about, well, this is my opinion, they were so confident about the way that the mids were being reproduced, or were being capable of reproducing themselves, that, okay, let's not spoil it with now giving it too much bass that will, darken things up and camouflage and hide. No, but then let's make sure that those mids, which are now open and are also equally detailed. And in that aspect, imaging is definitely the better one of the two, of soundstage and imaging. Timbre and tonality, again, it's, you guys that follow me know that I give you a lot of importance to that. It's, in my opinion, perfect. There's really nothing I can complain about, with only the occasional song here and there, just me personally, myself and I, preferring a little bit extra warmth or a little bit extra weight in the bass, which will ultimately also change the timbre and the tonality, but nothing which is offensive or nothing which is incorrect. Ultimately, it's like I've said many times, yes, okay, we can have this audiophile desire and so on and so forth, but you know what, it's just got to sound good. And if you listen to a particular song and that song isn't maybe recorded with the exact perfect audiophile manner in which it was originally recorded, but it sounds good to you in the way that it's coming across, either because you've equalized it that way, or just because the way that the particular IEM is being tuned makes it sound that way. If you like it, that's what matters. It doesn't matter what I say or what any other reviewer will say. Honestly, that's truly my opinion. If it sounds good to your ears, that's what matters. Obviously, there are cases where it's flagrant that it's not going to sound good anyway, that you put it or you're trying to approach it. But anyway, let's forget that. Let's not open up a can of worms. So, like I said, technically it's fine. There's nothing to be said there. Timbre and tonality and the imaging are the better ones. Got good resolution. The frequency response is perfect. It's nothing really done in a bad manner there. Everything is very balanced, very smooth. That the whole IEM screams smoothness and balance. Okay, so let's now make a quick comparison here with what I've got here compared to the Rinco. That's a quick one. The Rinco is got, yes, loads of bass, but by comparison, it's got no mids, it's got no detail, it's got nothing. I try to understand every IEM and every IEM's way of being tuned, or what was the idea behind, but with regards to the Rinco, I really don't think that objective was obtained, because it is supposed to be a bass monster. I don't consider it a bass monster in any way, and it was supposed to be an IEM that had amazing highs. And so I don't particularly think that it has amazing highs. I mean, the Sonus only loses out to the Rinco for the fact that it hasn't got as much mid bass, because even in the quality of the bass is superior to the Rinco. So the Sonus is, in my opinion, an IEM which makes more sense than the Rinco. So that's the Rinco out of the way there. Okay, fine. With regards to the EM6L, there are songs where I have to say that I was quite surprised. Sea Smooth from George Benson, Waves from Dallas Allen, even Money for Nothing from Dire Straits were songs where I was very impressed by how good the Sonus was playing, and how good it was actually keeping up with the EM6L. Contrary to some other people that have considered the EM6L to be maybe a little bit too bright or too... I don't. I mean, okay, or fair enough. I'm an old fart, let's put it that way. And my ears are not what they used to be. But the EM6L sounds flawless in my opinion. It is everything that maybe those that enjoyed the EA500, the EM6L I think is a good alternative to those that wanted an EA500 with a little bit more bass. Yes, of course, that little extra bass does mean that it's not as detailed up top. Ultimately, the EA500 is still, although just a single D, is still capable of being more detailed up top than this. But you know, it's a good IEM. It plays well. End of story. For $109, a 1+4 with this level of performance is not something that is common. It is something that perhaps will become more common, but it plays good. And you know, the Sonus gives it some work. Let's put it that way. But ultimately, the EM6L is a better IEM. Obviously, it still does cost $50 more. Okay. This now brings me to the Let's Show the DZ4. The Let's Show DZ4 is also another IEM which got a little bit of mixed reviews, either because of the way that the engineering was done, and was it. I mean, I myself tried to get some answers from Let's Show. Unfortunately, they didn't give me the answers the way I would have liked them to have been given. But the reality is this: I enjoy the DZ4. I think the DZ4, for what it is a nice IEM. It plays nicely. Yes, you do notice the bass is not on the same level as other IEMs, because obviously it's a smaller driver, but it is a decent quality IEM. It's got a, you know, the bass has got good amount of slang considering it's just a 6mm driver. It's got very good quality. Maybe just the quantity is not what we would ideally like, especially when we have, you know, 10mm drivers and 11mm drivers and so on and so forth. But it is a nice sounding IEM, the DZ4. Of the two, which do I think will probably be the most satisfying? Actually, the Sonus. I do genuinely think the Sonus is the better IEM. But you know, credit must be given to the fact that the DZ4 has got an interesting approach to what they've tried to do there. They've tried and given us a different product, you know, with a different tuning with regards to, you know, being 3 drivers tuned in the manner that they've done, with passive radiator as well in there. In the mixer, it's actually 4 drivers if you look at it carefully. But you know, the one that will be the one that makes the most sense is the Sonus. So that's the DZ4 out of the way as well. Galileo 1+1, using 2 very high quality drivers, and the only real negative, well, negative is a bit of a strong word, I don't want to sound, but the only real thing that I saw as a detail that could have been done slightly different, but again, I accepted it because that was the idea of the tuning, is the fact that there could be just a little bit more extension up top. And I guess that's because of the fact that they've just used a single BA, and it is a 23 series BA from Sonus. And it is a BA which usually the mids are where it shines. And yes, perfect. Comparing it to the Sonus, I think that the Galileo is slightly better than the Sonus. Not, you know, not dramatically better. It is slightly better in that it is more polished. It is just that little extra bit more polished. Whether that extra little bit that you're getting is justifying the $30 to $40 price difference is something I'll leave it to you. If you have a Galileo, does it make sense buying a Sonus? No. If you have a Sonus, is the Galileo an upgrade? No. The Galileo, my apologies, the Sonus has got a very good thing which is difficult to overcome and and not, you know, pay attention to it, which is it costs $59. It is very hard to find an IEM at this price range or at the low price range that plays as capably as the Sonus does, and that's, you know, something that we just can't put aside. So sonically, yes, that the Galileo might be edging out ever so slightly the Sonus, but price wise, you know, this is very competitively priced. So, and that, you know, and you could argue, but what about the EM6L? I think the EM6L has enough going for it to justify the price. If you have an EM6L going to a Sonus, is, in my opinion, a downgrade. If you have a Sonus and you want to upgrade, I am confident that the EM6L is a good upgrade. Okay, so that's those out of the way. Krilla, the KZ Krilla, and this is maybe gonna cause now some little bit of controversy. I'm not gonna say it's better than the Sonus, because it isn't better than the Sonus. I would say the Krilla is about equal to Sonus, because it exceeds the Sonus in certain areas, it loses in others. It's better than the Sonus in the bass. Okay, it's got that little extra mid-bass slam, little extra mid-bass weight that complements then those songs that I like listening to in a better way. You listen to something like Money for Nothing on the Krilla, and it's got that little extra bite that that song has, which this does it well, but it just is not that, you know. On the other hand, on the reverse side of the coin, you notice that the upper mids and the treble on the Krilla are not as polished as on the Sonus. The Sonus has got just a little extra bit amount of polishness. Not on all songs. Not on all songs. In this particular song, you notice that. But there are other songs, like, for example, My Father's Eyes from Eric Clapton. They are like very equal. Honestly, very, very equal. And when I show you the graphs, you will see. Because obviously, I'm saying this based on what I heard. And then, you know, the graphs, to a certain extent, haven't lied as well. So, the KZ, I think, is a solid tie with the Sonus. Okay, the Sonus, yes, does offer better accessories. The Sonus, yes, does offer an build quality. They're very comparable. It's, you know, and you do have the tuning switches, which you don't have in the Sonus. Cable wise, yes. So I guess there could be a justification made for, you know, the accessories that the Sonus brings to make you decide for the Sonus instead of the Krilla. And as well, if you're one of those people that has got maybe something against the whole politics of KZ, then forget the Krilla, forget that it's a good sounding IEM, and go straight away for the Sonus. But reality is, in terms of its sonic capabilities, the Krilla is very competent. And this then finally leaves me with then the Roshan and the CVJMA. The Roshan is almost the same graphically as the Sonus. It's actually quite interesting. Where does it differ? It differs in that 5 to 10K area, while here we have a dip and a kind of wanting to control an area which can sometimes be problematic for certain people, me included. Here we have an added energy, which has played in two ways. On the one hand, that added energy has given it liveliness and has given it an ability to, in terms of its soundstage, to sound bigger, to sound larger, to sound more spacious. But it has also brought with it a certain amount of coloredness, a certain amount of coloration to the sound, which can be pleasing to some, cannot be so pleasing to others, which can also showcase more the BA timbre or not, depending on your ears and tips and musical styles that you like listening. So it's kind of a, a give or take situation here. Ultimately, the Sonus, I guess, will probably be the one that makes the most sense, because again, it's roughly half the price. And however good the bass and the mids on the Roshan are, because the bass on the Roshan, trust me, is very, very good. I think the Roshan kind of got overshadowed by its brother, the EM6L, because they're basically the same price. But that particular driver in there, that dynamic driver there, I would love to see that driver in another implementation, in like a upgraded version of the EM6L, a 1+4, but with a Pro, let's call it that way, because that driver is special. That CNT driver that's in there is special. Trust me when I say that. You feel, out of all the IEMs here, okay, it's the one that, in terms of its sub bass, that grunt that's the most impressive one by far. The Rinko got, oh no, it's a bass monster and it will rattle your ears and make your teeth fillings come out. And forget it. This does it much better. It's just that aspect, like I said, it's got that extra substantial energy there in that 5 to 9K area, which is to a certain extent tamed by that bass presence, that bass ability, tonality, timbre, what you want to call it. But it also showcases as well a little bit of its shortcomings. It doesn't offend me. I particularly myself like it, but maybe not so others. And finally, the May. And the May is again one of those IEMs that kind of is on the same boat as the EM6L. I said it and I'll say it again, and I'll say it as many times as it's needed. It is, the CVJ May is, in my opinion, the most underrated IEM in under $100, without question. I think most people really are not giving the May its deserved merit, because it comes from a brand that has got very eclectic IEMs. Either they sound really good or then they are an absolute mess, and they've gone through a long period of time where the IEMs were a mess. And the May was the first in a long time that came around and like really did everything, really ticked all the right boxes. The May is fantastic. The way that it's been tuned, everything within a very narrow band, it sounds absolutely fantastic. A little bit darker, a little bit not as open sounding in the mids as the Sonus, but on the reverse side of that, that also lets the bass that's there, which is, even if it had the same energy of the Sonus, I think it would still, you would still agree with me. The bass there is very good. The bass and the mids on the May are very good. Where it starts losing out slightly is in the upper mids. That is not as good as here. So it's the upper mids, the transition from the mids to the upper mids, the Sonus does it better. And then the treble, again, very equal with perhaps the Sonus just taking the top spot more often, because of the fact that you do not notice that BA tonality as much as you notice it on the May occasionally. You notice on the May occasionally, especially when you start cranking the volume, you will notice it a little bit more than you will on the Sonus. But the reality is this: there's no real winner, no real loser here. They are both very good IEMs. And the May is, like I said earlier, unquestionably the most underrated IEM. I've yet to find anybody that has tried the May properly and given, time to listen to it and tried some tips, and really, I've yet to find somebody that has said that the May was not capable or not good. It is very good. It's got a very unusual tuning, but it just sounds fantastic. All right. Anyway, guys, I think I've been able to position the 7Hz, the Sonus, very nicely. It's a fantastic IEM. My congratulations to 7Hz, seriously. I mean, I know with regards to the legato, I was maybe a little bit harder than I was a little bit hard, and some people maybe thought I wasn't being just. No, I was being just, because if the mids, especially the mids on the legato, if the mids had been done a little bit better, I think the legato could really be an IEM that could have made its place very, cemented its position very well. It's got, yes, it's undeniable, it's got good bass, but there are other IEMs, and I showed you. The Rose Finch, for example, from KB here, he's got more bass, or as much bass, let's keep it that way. It's got as much bass and the same or better quality bass, okay, and it costs $20. And the legato for $100, there should have been more care. They should have done with the legato what they've done here, okay? If they had paid attention to the mids on the legato like they paid attention to it on the Sonus, the legato would have been a success, okay? And that's it. I'll show you the graphs now and we'll wrap it up. All right, you take care now. Bye-bye. Hi guys, and welcome now to the graph section of the 7Hz Sonus. I've got all the graphs up here now together, so let me just start taking out a few of them so that we can see things a little bit more clearer. So the Sonus is number 11, so we're going to take out all the others. Okay, and there we go. Okay, so this is the graph of my Sonus, which closely matches the factory graph. As you can see, everything sits within a window of 63 to 72, roughly 9 dBs. Okay, perhaps a little bit more than some other some other graphs that have been, going around. But the basic or the important factors or things to look for, which are what? Sub bass focus, a mid bass which is flat by 250 Hz, basically, so no bleed into the mids. A pinna gain that starts a little bit earlier than usual, but also peaks at a level which is not exceeding the bass, so it matches that nicely. So that the pinna gain starts a little earlier, but it's nice and progressive and peaks at the same point as the bass. A small little dip here in this area between 2 and 4.5K, then that dipped area there of around 5, 6, which can be sometimes problematic. Couple of related peak at 8, and then some extension past 10K. Everything is very smooth, as you can see. I would even say that it's even smoother sounding, even more, not the correct word that I'm going to be using now, neutral sounding, than what the graph would make you believe. Because I mean, everything, when it reaches like 7, 6, 7, let's say 8 dBs of gain, either way, it's a V-shaped, and you would think of this as being a V-shaped IEM, and it doesn't actually sound that way. It sounds way more neutral, way more relaxed. Okay. Anyway, let's start here with these graphs. I'm going to start off with the DZ4, okay, from Let's Show, and as you can see, the graph basically is the same in terms of the bass up to 1K. It's basically the same. Obviously, it's a smaller driver, so it's nowhere as near as impactful as that 11mm driver from the Sonus. In terms of the mids, I think the mids on the DZ4 are flawless. If anything, they maybe are not equally or not properly matched with the necessary weight coming from behind, because it is a 6mm driver. So if it was a slightly bigger driver with the same sort of bass, maybe those mids would shine more. But then it does have great technicalities. I mean, that must be given. Ultimately, I'll give it to the Sonus as being perhaps the better choice of the two IEMs. But the truth is, the DZ4, for something which is a little bit unusual, 3+1, and that one is a passive radiator, it is nice. It is a nice, it's a novel approach, and I'm sure that Let's Show will be coming out with something following this technology, but significantly improved. Okay, so that's the DZ4 out of the way. The next one that I'm going to be showing you now is the Galileo. And the Galileo, again, nice and smooth, everything in the bass, everything very nice and smooth, relaxed, very smooth, progressive pinna gain, peaking at close to 3K. Everything is very, very well executed. The bass on the Galileo, in my opinion, is of superior quality and quantity to the bass of the Sonus. There's a little bit more extra mid bass. It's just more polished overall. I'll leave it to you as the end buyer to decide if that extra price is justified or not. There are good things going for it in terms of the nice cable that it's using as well, a nice, nice hard case, some good tips. So it's up to you. I think they are very evenly matched. Maybe ultimately, okay, I could say that the Sonus might be the wiser choice, because there isn't enough difference sonically to justify maybe that difference in price, but I'll leave that decision to be made by you guys. Okay, so that's the Galileo. Number 9 now is actually, where's the KZ? Let's show the KZ first. The KZ, there we go. Now that's a surprise there for you guys. That's a surprise. I mean, my KZ Krilla with all the switches up, which is how it is, matches almost identically the Sonus. The bass has got a little extra weight, although it graphs the same. It's got a little bit more extra weight. It's got more mid bass presence. The mids are, in my opinion, flawless, and highs as well. Where you find that the Krilla loses out to the Sonus ever so slightly, although I think they are evenly matched, I really truly do think, is that there's just a little bit of less polish in the way that the upper mids and treble are done on the KZ. That's it. But it's nothing which is, in my opinion, a deal breaker of any sort. All right. Okay, so that's that out of the way. Number 9 now. Let's show the CVJ May. And I think the graph says again a lot. Yes, you do notice that this area of the transition between the mids and the upper mids and the treble in the May is slightly more relaxed than on the Sonus, which obviously then lets the bass shine. But even if it was on the same level as I mentioned during the review, the bass of the May is a better bass. It is, in my opinion, it's a more complete bass. The timbre, the tonality, the fun engagement part of it is more satisfying. I mean, there's not a lot in it, and it's obviously my personal choice, but it is an IEM that's very much like the EM6L. You know, there's solid blows being given by the Sonus, but me personally, I would go for the May, although, as I mentioned, yes, the May does have a little bit more that BA timbre when you increase the volume, you know, but I still prefer the May ever so slightly. So that's the May out of the way. Number 12 now. Yes, this is the Simgot, the Roshan. And as you can see, and as I mentioned, the curves are, you know, the overall basic, let's say, sorry, I took out the wrong one. I left the one that I want to leave is this one. You can see that the basic curve of the Roshan and of the Sonus is very identical. I mean, the bass up to 4K, they are basically the same. It's then between 4 and let's say 8K that there's more energy on the Sonus. On the Roshan, and as I mentioned, in terms of bass, it is unquestionably the best IEM out of this whole bunch that I've selected here. Quality, quantity, flawless. The way that this extra energy is being given to the BA brings pluses and minuses. And obviously, if it wasn't for this energy that you have in the bass and the way it comes across, you would definitely notice this 5K peak more, and it would, you know, it would shout maybe at you more than what it actually does. In my case, I can't really complain, and I think it sounds really good. The problem is, does it justify the price difference? I mean, it is $100. You know, it's something which, again, I will leave to you to decide. It is a tough one to justify because the Sonus is very capable. Okay, so that's that. And now the next one, oh, the C Audio Rinko. I was about to forget it. I mean, you look at the graph of the Rinko and you think, okay, bass, it's going to be, you know, and it sounds, these mids and these highs do not exist like these, like the graph is showing. This is one classic case where the graph does not correspond to the reality of what you hear, because the bass is a bloated mess. It's not a authoritative bass. It's not thick and strong and you know, no, it is just one note, in my opinion. Boom, that's it, period. You know, with all due respect to all those that do like the Rinko, it is not an IEM that has been faithful to its design premise, in my opinion. And finally, the EM6L. And the EM6L, actually, let me, I didn't align this properly. Sorry. This should be aligned there. It's 500 hertz. Sorry, 500 hertz. There you go. Okay. The EM6L, like I mentioned, yes, the Sonus does trade some blows, but the EM6L is ultimately better. You would think, by the way, that this is graphing in terms of the bass, that there's a huge difference in terms of bass, of it sounding way more thicker or so on than the Sonus, and it does and it doesn't. It doesn't because, first of all, it's an 8mm driver, so the graph actually gives more idea of what actually exists there. But the reality is that yes, it is got more extension, more energy, and more mid bass definitely than the Sonus. But it's not perhaps what you would think by looking at this. I mean, especially if I actually am to normalize it at 1K, I guess then this would probably be more evident. What I hear is this, okay? This is what I hear. What I think most will probably hear is this. and it's not the case. I hear people saying that the highs are a little bit too excessive and so on. No, I don't think the highs are excessive. I don't think the upper mids are excessive. I think this transition is being done flawlessly. You know, the little minimal amount of bleed that exists into the mids is more than actually helping out in making the EM6L being so engaging, so lush. Because you know, the thing about the EM6Ls is it sounds very lush, it sounds very rich, and that's why I think ultimately I prefer it, and I think that it stands above the Sonus, and it is a solid upgrade. While there are other IEMs here which makes no sense, you know, like I was saying earlier about the Galileo. The Galileo is not enough to be a solid upgrade over the Sonus, and the other way around also not, but here it is. There is enough to justify. And the difference, the most significant difference that you will notice between the two is in the way that the bass comes across. Not as strong or as prominent as the graph, you know, normalized at 1K would make you believe. I think it sounds more along these lines like this. Yes, more energy without a question, but it sounds more along these lines. All right. Anyway, guys, I hope I was able to help you guys get an idea about the Sonus. Without a question and without a doubt, the best IEM that has been launched by 7Hertz, in my opinion, overall, considering every aspect. I mean, even considering the timeless obviously has its deserved merits, and like I said before many times, if we live the glory that we are living of planars, we owe it to the timeless. But even considering price and everything, the Sonus is the best IEM that 7Hertz has done. Alright, anyway guys, as always, like and subscribe. Any questions you might have, please feel free to ask me. Take care now, bye bye.